Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony. I'm chair of the Committee on Finance. I'm calling to order our regular meeting on Wednesday, May 1st, 2024 at 5:34 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you be so kind as to call the roll?
Chairwoman Anthony,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor is absent. Councilor Underwood,
Present.
Councilwoman Graves is absent. Councilor Sanchez,
Here.
3 present, 2 absent. We have a plan.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank Councilor Don Saltz for joining us this evening. And also we have Stephen Nelson from the City Solicitor's Office. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And of course, our wonderful clerks, Lauren Gutierrez, Donna Felician, and we have Jim Rose here to the staff. So thank you all for coming, as well as our distinguished guests. So with that, I would like to have a motion to waive the reading of items 1 through 4. So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Ellis, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? With that, we are going to call, we have the Department of Inspections and Standards with Director Moore, and Kevin Mahoney is here this evening too. We'd love to have you, as well as the finance team, all come to the table. And we will swear you in.
Raise your right hand. You swear on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So please state your names for the records and your titles.
James Seymour, Director of Inspection and Standards.
Kevin Mahoney, Deputy Director of Inspection and Standards.
Crystal Lindbergh, Deputy Finance Director, Budget Officer.
Lawrence Mancini, Chief Financial Officer.
Sarah Silveria, Finance Director.
Thank you so much. And before we begin, I am going to just announce that we will be not hearing economic development, Department of Economic Development. I believe that we scheduling that for
May 21st,
May 21st.
tentative.
I think we're confirmed on that. So
Okay.
right now we're going to move that to May 21st. That is the agenda. I have revised, we're constantly revising the schedule, but I will send that to you because you don't have it. Actually, I just sent it earlier. Yes,
Yeah,
I did. Thank you. And then I would also like a motion to mark the presentation from the Department of Inspections and Standards as item number 5. I have a motion.
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilor Anderbaugh, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So I think we are ready. Yes, Chief Mancini.
Madam Chair, if I may, before we begin tonight's proceedings, if I may qualify me and the members of the committee for a matter of a point of personal privilege.
Please.
So last evening we had a discussion, and while I don't mean to be pointed on that, I too should have spoken last evening, and I did not. So upon reflection this morning, I must tell you that I was greatly disturbed by the comments that I made last evening with respect to information that may or may not be hidden from the council. Let me say for the record that in 15 years of my 37-year service appearing before this committee, I have never been engaged in deceptive practice, nor has my staff, and nor will we ever. And I speak for the administration and department. So while I would have been on record last evening, I respectfully request that you note that for the record, that we do not engage in deceptive practice. And while it may not have been intended that way, it certainly felt that way in public. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you so much, Chief. And I will say, and I'm sure that wasn't the intent last night, but I really do. I mean, your staff is unbelievable, and certainly people of principle and integrity. And I am constantly grateful that you have your team.
And I mean that for the entire administration, because they have to come through finance in order to be here. So we take that with the highest degree of respect.
I certainly appreciate you saying that, and that's a wonderful way to start on. So thank you so much.
So with that said, Madam Chair, and if we may, we continue with the same format. You know, Finance Director and Deputy are responsible for the city budget preparation. So Director Silveria will begin the process by giving it to the record assembly, followed by the Department Director who's got a bill for your questions or comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beginning with, building administration. Revenue in fiscal 25 is proposed at $9,028,000. This is an increase of $2 million over the 24 budget, and it is due to additional development activities within the city and is supported by trend. Moving on to expenditures, total salaries for fiscal 25 are proposed at $790,043, a decrease of $2,159 from the budget. And the department has made the following organizational changes. An increase to the salary for the secretary to board of review and zoning official, $7,834. A transfer of the zoning assistant to two structures in zoning, $64,990 savings in this division. And a defunding of the inspections coordinator at a savings of $49,536. And then just to note that the switch, the transfer of the zoning assistant to the structures and zoning division. All of the changes between building administrations and structures and zoning nets to a $20,924 increase to the overall DIS budget. Benefits for fiscal 25 are proposed at $424,395. A decrease of $156,884 from the 24 budget. Total services for fiscal 25 are proposed at $401,744. This is an increase of $197,885 over the 24 budget. And this increase is primarily due to increased funding for a document scanning pilot program and has been offset by a decrease in dues and subscriptions. Total supplies in fiscal 25 are proposed at $332,321, an increase of $38,967 over the 24 budget. And this is primarily due to additional funding for training and the contractual increase for the rent at 444 Westminster Street. Moving on to structures and zoning, there is no revenue in this division. Total salaries at fiscal 25 are proposed $1,378,944, an increase of $204,502 over the 24 budget. And those changes included the transfer of that zoning assistant from the building administration division, the funding of the building inspector 3 of $70,460, a defunding of renewal inspector 3 at a savings of $52,490, and funding a permit tech 2 for $55,095. This department has requested to defund the renewal inspector 3 and fund a permit tech 1. This adjustment will result in a net increase of $2,605 in the final budget. Additionally, funding allocated to building inspector 1 apprentice shall be transferred to code compliance officer positions, no cost to the city. And again, the total impact of all of the changes between the two divisions is $23,529. Total benefits in fiscal 25 are proposed at $892,389, an increase of $21,000 over the 24 budget. And there are no services and supplies. And the rest of the divisions are just salary and fringe. There are no requested changes. That's where you'd like me to walk through the salary.
I don't think it's necessary. I appreciate that.
And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Director Moore to make an opening comment.
Okay, Director Moore, I'm gonna have to ask, I don't know how we can shift around. Maybe you wanna move over here, so you have a direct line or can you see them?
I can see him, yeah, as long as it's on.
Maybe we have you in our, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, Deputy Director. Okay. Director.
How are you? The changes that we made, we took, so I spent the 4 months of 2024, the first 4 months trying to understand the department and the needs of the city, realizing that there were positions that were needed and positions that weren't. With the realignment of duties for clear line of sight. The one thing that we've done by adding the other permit tech, we were able to basically take 2 duties that were half-time duties and create one full-time position. So, permit tech one will be able to handle the inspection calls with part of their duty, plus do the processing of permits, so that piece is more efficient. Because now all of the permit techs, the job descriptions were changed to encompass the inspection line. So every permit tech will rotate through the inspection line, so it will never go unanswered. That was the primary move. Get rid, and then take deep on the inspection coordinator position to be able to use that funding to have a position that has a multi-purpose. The other position, the renewal inspector 3, was an older position that had been on the books for quite some time. By changing the job description and job titles and moving them over to code compliance. So they were all aligned with the same naming conventions as other jurisdictions. And so that's why the renewal inspectors going being defunded to fund code compliance inspector positions. And we are at capacity with the reorganization and with right sizing the department. You'll see in the org chart, there are some vacancies that are difficult to fill. And with time and moving of duties, we'll be able to compensate for some of that. The trick is, as everyone knows, is the private sector pays a lot more than the public sector. And so trying to coerce someone from a $120,000 job to an $80,000 job is quite a feat. And so that's what we're looking at this year is do we fill the top end one, or do we repurpose that money for entry level positions? And so that's why there's 2 entry level positions under the funding section. So do we fill the top one, the deputy, or do we keep the chief and give him 2 entry levels? Then we have a broader reach with the same amount.
Director, can you just walk us through the org chart? Just again, I see all the vacancies and just tell me what it is you're thinking. Sort of, are you thinking you can fill these and these, or which ones are entry level, and how do you think these are going to be filled given your constraints?
So if you look through the senior clerk position under, so we're going to start on the left hand side.
Oh.
So the senior clerk position, the 2 vacant positions, I'm working on a rewrite of the job description to get a more qualified candidate in my entry level position. That's the entrance into the department. That's where you're really going to learn. And if we move to the next column is plumbing. So the deputy chief position has to be master mechanical, master plumber. That's a very hard position to pull out of the trade. I'm not going to be able to do that in the near future. So with the continual funding of lower positions, I can pull in a plumber, a journeyman, and a journeyman mechanical. If I'm unable to fill the deputy chief position, if I can fill the deputy chief, then I'm not going to fill the other 2. It's just I needed them on the books, so I had that flexibility. Then we're going to go over to I think it's a building inspector. Building inspector 2 position. We worked in the budget. We worked the ability, and other departments had this, and Chris will be able to help me out with this. Where the largest constraint we had for recruiting for this position is that there's no growth. And what I mean by that is if you're hired as building inspector 1, you go nowhere until someone retires. Well, with the help of finance, Chief Mancini, Sarah, Crystal's assistance with this, we're able to create a progression program to where once you hit those qualifications, then I can post for the higher level. So then at the end of the day, and this will take 8 to 9 years to fill, I'll have 3 inspector 3s. So it's a drawn out, but it gives that person the motivation to come on as an entry level and then know that they have that ability to grow. And so in 8, 9, 10 years, they'll be at the top level, and the city benefits for having 3 top level inspectors. The plans examiner 2 position, I want to hold that position, and the reason being is because of the progression. So all positions is progression, but the plans examiner position, with the limited, I guess you would say, property in Providence, the plan review position essentially looks at new projects or additions, large remodels. They don't look at all of the trade permits. So that position, I'm wanting to see if we're going to hit a threshold where we need to add. I don't want to spend the public's money on a position just to have a position filled. That's not what my intent. My intent is to right size and keep what we need in place to do the job. That's the key. I look at it as if I was running out of my own, if I'm running out of house, how am I gonna run the business? And that's what I think about when I ask for things. If I don't need the position, then yes, it'd be nice to have on the books for flexibility, but it may not be funded. I mean, it may not be filled. Then the permit tech 2 position is again the growth position. We have several people that have been there for 12, 13 years, have been in lower positions. They had no room to grow. So with this progression, we're able to keep those people and reduce the turnover rate.
Okay, that does help, and I certainly understand your growth plan for the department and appreciate it very much, because I know you've given a lot of thought to how this department can run efficiently. So I know how much thought you have put into this, and I'm very appreciative of that explanation. I don't mean, if we'd like to proceed, I don't know if there's anything else we would like to present, or.
I don't, the program manager that Sarah was discussing is, it's a scanning pilot, and the reason why it's a pilot is because the largest concern we say that we weren't taking funds out of the general budget to fund a program that is going to be a one-time use, I guess you would say. So what we're wanting to do is we're testing this pilot and looking for monies, grants and things of that nature to fulfill the rest of the larger amount that's needed. Again, the balanced budget is the key. And so with that, we were able to get in the $200,000 under the private contractors to be able to start it. So that way we lock in the beginning of it. And then by that time, we should be able to have the grants or other funding ways to finish it out. And that, the mayor and Chief Hawkins, Chief Mancini, that's the best use of the money. Because I don't want to bounce out of it. I don't want to take $1.3 million out of the general fund for a one-time use. That's not good use of money.
And I'm sorry, we're talking about which pilot program again?
It's going to be the scanning. Under the private contractors, you'll see $300,000. Sorry, $350,000.
Yeah.
150 of it will go towards boarding and fencing and abatement and demos, things of that nature, for compliance issues. The other piece will be a pilot program for scanning of every document in the department. The intent, the end goal is to have everything scanned. So that way, when there's an after request, you just tell me to go online. It's available for free. So those are the things that we're after. And so we're going to pilot it. The mayor has been able to allocate this piece, and we have it set aside so that way we can pilot, test drive it, because I'm familiar with the scanning process. I did it back in Spokane, 5 million documents, $450,000, and then the rest was going to be spread out over some time because the delicacy, it was old plats. So we're going to pilot with the 200,000.
And I'm gonna give you, turn it over to you in just a minute. I just, on that issue, and certainly, so this is software, new software, is that correct? Or is this just, is the software already purchased and you're scanning the documents into the software?
There is a software that we're working on for compliance.
Okay,
But this is a state contract we're gonna piggyback off of. And it'll scan it into the archivist,
okay,
all of their servers. So that way, then it's available to everyone.
and who do you have in your department who's gonna be doing the scanning?
It's gonna be third party.
Okay, the whole thing.
The whole thing's third party.
Sorry.
What I don't want to do again is I don't want to pull people off the line to be able to do a scanning job. And if you get someone, and I've found that if you have someone that is on light duty, that's doing something of this nature, there's not the quality control. My concern, I'd rather pay somebody to get the quality control. And the searchable fields, it's all gonna be OCR and things of that nature.
And just so I'm sure, sorry.
No,
Just so I'm sure that we're looking at the rates, so we're looking at private contractors and expenditures, and we're talking about a 350 for fiscal year 25, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. So 150 of that is for code compliance,
okay,
and the remaining of that is for the scanning pilot.
okay. And I just wanted to recognize both Council President Miller and Pro Tem Pichardo, who has joined us. Thank you so much. And Thank you very much. Okay, I'm gonna recognize, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Director. My question was over exactly the software and exactly how the third party works. And I think I have a clear understanding, but how would this like interact with a constituent or a developer with your department? Would it go to like a third party? Like where does like the actual scanning and stuff, where does that happen?
So at the end of the program, from what I've been envisioning, is that if you jump on the GIS, you go to the permitting, you hit search records, you type in the address, everything you want's right there. You just click a button. I see all the permit history for this building back to 1951, 1947, 1920. It's all right there.
What's the process right now?
Right now, you do an app request and I go search through 40 million boxes. And hopefully I find what you're looking for.
Fair enough.
Hey, yes, Councilor, Amberblock.
Were you done? I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah.
One, this is awesome, and two, my main question is really, so last year when you came, you were telling us about needing time for restructure, and is this like the final form of what the restructure is looking like, or is this also building in like more could be changing based on this work you're doing with the scanning? And then I also really appreciate to add into the comment of the question, the building in the progression for folks. I think that's like really amazing foresight that I just want to say I just love that you're doing that. Is this kind of like when you talked about doing your reorg, this is the structure that you're coming back, or is there going to be more reorganization going forward? Is the very bad way I'm asking this question?
No worries. I understand exactly what you're saying. This format is a format that I have seen over the years and the format that I'm accustomed to. It can be, this format can be placed in different scenarios. So let's say some city of Portland runs a one-stop shop. Okay, everyone's in one building, all the permits come out of one spot. This fits in that format. This fits in DIS being on its own with no influence from anyone. It fits in that format. This fits in that combined format. This fits with the reporting structure in any format you want to put it into.
No, that's helpful, because when you came last year, I think you were still fresh, and you were saying, give me some time, I'll reorg this, and it seems like this is the result, and it seems really great.
This is it. So the reason why I didn't need to look at it too much is
yeah, you just like boom.
I've been looking at it for a year, and it took me 4 months to create it.
Yeah.
But every day I looked at it for the last year.
And you pre-answered all the questions I had about the expenditure, so I really don't have very many.
I did,
Yeah.
so currently, as at least the budget is proposing for 50, or do you have currently 50, or you will have 50 employees in your department?
So the trick is that there are board positions that are funded out of my department. There's the building board and the zoning board.
Right.
I will be working with the boards in the state to see what we can do there. I imagine that one of the boards will stay. Most jurisdictions move their building boards to the state. Because it's an appeal of the jurisdiction's decision.
Yeah.
So most jurisdictions have moved theirs to the state under the state building commission board. So that's a $10,000 savings.
And so you're evaluating that, or?
I'm working through that now because the one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to slow down the process. Whatever the process is, I don't want to slow down. So if you're going to appeal the decision made from my department, I want it to have the same time frame as if I had a board in-house. So those are the numbers I'm crunching right now to see how many we've done. I think there's been one in the last 8 months, and how long it took to get on the books, and then how long it take the state to do the same job. If they can't do it at the same time, forget it.
Okay, I guess my concern, which is, you know, there's a lot of expectation that your department is going to be, I mean, historically, it hasn't, with all due respect, been staffed properly, probably, or to deliver on really truly enforcing the ordinances that we have in the city. I feel that we never have, at least since I've been here, and I'm gonna say the deputy director, excuse me, has done a great job for the city. But I just don't think that we've, you know, seen the enforcement of our ordinances. So the top priority, I think, for a lot of councilors are that we're gonna see our ordinances that are on the book being enforced. And my concern is, while I understand that you're building capacity here, which I think is really important, I'm wondering if what you have currently, you're gonna be able to deliver on that promise to enforce the way we need our ordinances enforced.
Madam Chair, I can say that the way the department had functioned before, working with Deputy Director Mahoney and understanding his insight on the turmoil, I guess you could say, the lack of direction. There are SOPs in place now. I'm using a business analyst to write an entire SOP for the entire department. We're almost done with that. There was nothing in writing before. So how do you do that? Done. The other thing is that an inspector's office is the vehicle. It's not in the department. Their job is in the field, not in the department. So if you see city vehicles with inspections and standards on the side parked somewhere, that's why they're out in the field. They're not in the office. They're leave by 10 o'clock and come back at 3:45. We've implemented systematics, they're called. That's what they were deemed before. And I'll probably leave that terminology for now. And if they get a complaint in a certain area, then they're going to drive that entire street and find the rest of them.
Okay. Yes, Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your year of service. And just recalling also from last year, you were gonna do, as was indicated before, the full analysis and see what you needed. So I appreciate what you presented. A couple of questions in reference to in terms of the status of these inspections, or the challenges that builders have getting inspectors out to get certificate of occupancy and so forth. Is there a backlog on that? And do you have enough staff to do those to meet the demand?
Again, so prior to me coming, and it's still quasi in place. It's in the transition right now. To get a CO, everyone would have to do a sign off. And the building inspector would go out there, then they'd come back to the office and they'd say it's gonna take a week to 2 weeks. As they were verifying all the information in the computer, so when they printed out the CO, the information was correct. When a permit is issued, that information has to be correct when it's issued. So the change I'm making is when the inspector hits final, the CO is printed, and they can download it and go about their way. So there's no waiting 2 weeks. As soon as the inspector goes and finals the building, and click final, the document's ready.
I think that's good. Yeah. Oftentimes, we've heard over time, the challenges that builders have, or even the ones that are rehabbing their properties. So there's no backlog of any of this
Right now, there's probably 3 or 4 that are backlogged
compared to,
compared to before,
yeah.
30,
Mm,
I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
significant.
Yeah, there's, so with that in mind. We've also made changes, there's other sign-offs in the city that we're looped into licenses. So we're looped into that. So with the plans examiner that we brought on board, the senior and the plans examiner 1, they're doing those reviews, taking that off the building official, so the building official can do larger project reviews. Or make decisions that need to be made, so we don't have to go to the board of review, we can get it handled at administrative level. So those are the other changes.
The other is in terms of, the building itself, I see, perhaps this is, yeah, in terms of the rent increase in, the building. How much is that, has increased for this year, we're under this budget?
In total,
Yeah,
I don't have a number off the top of my head, but I can get it for you.
The total for,
444 rent.
so my piece of it is 254,000, I believe.
increase,
It went up, I believe, 8%.
8%.
It was 240 last year, I believe 238, now it's 254-ish.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Randall.
Oh, did you go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. Two kind of quick questions. One is last year when you came, you mentioned changing the structure to involve like rotating the inspector, so it wasn't like south side had an inspector and east side had an inspector, maybe moving around. Is that a change that's been implemented?
That has been, we're no longer doing it by wards. So what I've done is, to be efficient, the commercial corridor, the roads, and you look at Providence, it makes a spoke.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the new areas. So they'll drive out on one road, they'll come back on the next.
Okay.
So they'll go across, and they'll come back on the other commercial corridor. They'll map out the day every morning, they'll call all the people that they're gonna inspect and say, oh, you're third on the list, you're fourth on the list. Well, what time is that? Well, that should be between
Right.
10 and 10.
Okay.
If everything goes right. So there's actually now 5. Yeah, there's 5 areas.
Okay.
As regarding code compliance, those are 5 areas where they will be doing systematics. Outside of systematics, there are no wards, there's no areas. It's geographical location by group of how many. So I send you out for 4 over here. It could be a different inspector going in to do the follow-up.
Cool. Okay.
What that does is it forces you to ensure that your notes are good, so that way your coworker doesn't come in and say your notes are horrible.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, please.
And then, this is inspired by a specific example, but is not about a specific example, so, in our new process, what is the recourse if someone, is occupying a building that they feel like had been issued a certificate of occupancy, or there was some sort of inspection that happened in the past that probably shouldn't have been signed off on before your time? Is that something they appeal, you know what I'm talking about, I think, but like, yeah. But like, what would be the general process for that kind of thing, not asking about that specific example, because I know we talked about.
So the first piece is I gotta investigate the building, I need to know everything about it. I need to know the inspections that we did. I need to know the process that we used at that time, whatever the SOP was in place. It was not.
Yeah.
So then we have to go through and we have to figure out the legalities of what we're looking at. And has it turned into a civil matter? Or is it further than that? If it's further than that, then the city has only has certain legal avenues of recourse. And some cities just settle. City of Portland will settle. Don't let it get you moved.
Yeah.
Some cities don't have that temperament, and so you have to take a different course to resolve that issue.
Okay, but it would be like a report through your office and then you would start that kind of like
Absolutely,
review process.
I collect all the data and I say, here's the data.
Okay,
This is what happened.
yeah, okay, thank you, that's helpful.
Council President.
Oh, thanks. First of all, I just want to thank you both so much for your service. So DIS is like this workhorse of the city and so many residents touch it, have interactions with your department in this way that, doesn't necessarily happen elsewhere. And also I feel like DIS is so pivotal as we're trying to figure out how we can build more housing and get it online faster and all of those good pieces. I will say in the last year, I used to the pro tem's point, I used to get a lot of calls about hey, how do I get a CO? I'm ready to go. I do not get those calls anymore. So I think that's remarkable, truly. So thank you for that. I have I guess 3 questions. One of them, the calls I do get a lot still are residents who are dealing with housing that is substandard in some way, right? Who may not want to report it, right? Because they feel like if they get into a thing with actually this was last week with me, if they get into a conflict like that with their landlord, the housing situation in Providence right now is so difficult that they're just really not feeling secure enough. And so I'm trying to figure out okay, how can we, and I don't think this is unless you have thoughts on it right now, but I do think it's a problem to talk about and discuss. How can we as a city find ways to make sure that housing conditions are meeting our standards without necessarily always having to be individual reports and having someone's name attached to it. And hopefully, right, as we move forward and build more housing and the housing crisis changes, that's less of a concern. But right now, people are really unwilling to get into any kind of fight with their landlord, understandably. 2, I'd be really interested, and I think it's a longer conversation, DIS is in the middle of a lot of processes, to the chairwoman's point, around TSAs, around licensing. I think it would be very informative after we move through the budget and thinking about next fall about those systems and are there inefficiencies in those systems that are holding us back as a city from moving forward. I think that having your insight into that is crucial. And then the really concrete question I want to ask is your space adequate for the people? I know that we just talked about rent. Is the actual physical space at 444 meeting your department's needs?
At this time, it's more than needed right now.
Okay.
Again, so I have we got 12, 13 inspectors.
Okay.
So I'm used to an inspector having a desk this big, not a full-size cubicle, because their office is in their car.
Right.
And so, yes, my area is more than adequate.
Great.
Even if I were to expand, it's more than adequate.
Good to hear. All right.
Did you want any answer
On the big broad
housing
things I
standards
threw
or
out.
housing standards? I mean,
Yeah, if you have any thoughts on housing, absolutely. If you have thoughts on housing.
So life safety is one, habitability and compliance. So we have to make sure we meet the first 2. The last one, I don't want to take a landlord to court. I really don't. What I want is the landlord just to fix it.
Absolutely.
And so what I don't want to do is we come in with conversations. Sometimes this conversation pick a violation letter to start.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we have to do that. But if we can have a conversation and If you haven't seen my office yet, but I've gotten rid of, I have a living room now. It's no longer a conference table, it's a living room. Because when it gets to that level, it's a conversation. It's no longer this, it's no longer a formal event. It is a conversation of how do we get to what we need, and we know what we need, everyone knows. Everyone that owns a home, rents a home, everyone knows that what is needed. And we just have to guide them to get there. And again, the fear is that we're gonna come in and condemn it.
Mhm.
That's the last place I want to go. What I'd rather do is saying, hey, can you put them up in a motel for 3 days while you get this fixed? Oh, yeah. That's the conversation I'd love to have.
Can you remind us of like the overall timeline, if there's a complaint, like, the standard timeline for someone has to remedy?
So if you get a phone call about another problem, we will watch that property, and I did want to address the concern that it's not my clear, but. We'll watch that. We issue a first notice of violation. We do a title search challenge, we issue to the owner and the finance company.
Okay,
Which has made a dramatic difference in compliance. There'll be 30 days after that, we'll then issue a second notice if they haven't done anything. With that second notice will come that $50 a day fine, that goes along with it, and then 30 days after that, these are all hypothetical, they don't happen.
Yeah.
30 days. Then 30 days after that, if it still hasn't been done, we'll send it to court.
okay, so that's like almost 3 months, right, from start to court?
Right,
Okay.
right. And just to touch on a little bit about the concern of people, I get those phone calls all the time. And so if you have a problem in your apartment and you want us to do something, it's impossible to issue a violation without showing we were there
Mhm.
and you had to call us because we don't go into houses without being invited. So I tell people all the time, and normally they go along with it. I would get in the middle of the problem with a landlord that wanted to punish someone as much as I could. And when it gets to that point that it's a problem, we'll have conversations with the landlord about what's going on with it. So normally it doesn't get to that. But they do have a concern, but
Yeah.
we're not possible to do our job without pinpointing where the problem.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes, absolutely, and I really encourage people to like affirmatively say yes to me so I can help them. A lot of times people don't call me back, so
They can submit 3 more.
that's fair, yeah, that's true.
It gets to us within 24, 48 hours.
Yeah.
And then we have someone there within 24, 48 hours after that.
You still have to get in.
Yep.
That's
If they do it anonymously and they say that the second floor apartment is leaking and this and that, you don't go knocking on the door and yelling out there and let us in, you're gonna have to let us in.
No, it's really hard to be anonymous about where you live.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, absolutely, thank you both.
Yes, Counselor Sanders.
Thank you, Chairwoman. If money wasn't an issue, Director, what part of your department do you think would need most assistance?
most assistance,
Yeah.
none of it.
Fair enough. My next question,
I've right-sized it because what I don't want to do is. Right now, every chief, if you see process chiefs, they're in the field. They're not sitting in the office.
the one with the blues on top of them, or?
So if you look at the top, almost the top of each column, it says chief mechanical, chief electrical, chief. Chief building, chief housing compliance, all those people are in the field. So the only people that are in the office is one column. And then everything, and then the admin assistants, the director and myself, deputy director and myself. Everyone else is in the field. The statement I would make when I say I don't need anything more is that we have the tools, we just have to give them the guidance and the procedure on how to do it the most efficient way. And so that's what this year is. Last year was analyzing the department, understanding it, getting it to this. Now I already know what it needs to be, what needs to be done, what needs to be put in place. And so here in the next 2 months, there's going to be a DIS book put out on how to do it. So then what we do is for homeowners, they come in, they don't know what to do. We're gonna have a brochure with a fill in the blank You wanna build a deck, fill in the blanks. I can use it as your plan, I look at it, I say, I know exactly what you're gonna build. This meets code, this doesn't, fix this, okay, there you go, there's your plan, there's your permit. So that's what we're working on. And we'll have it translated into however many language I think we have 62 in here in Providence. Well, translated into all 62 languages. That way, anyone that wants to do something, here it is. Then what we're not doing is we're not spinning our wheels trying to walk them through how to draw something or how to build something. Here's the picture.
Am I good?
Yes.
So in that regard, this is one of my other questions as well, but I think you touched on it. I've been looking at other places when it comes to housing, and a lot of municipalities have like 90% done templates. Is that what you're talking about? And is that what we don't currently have?
So the templates, are you talking about
Like-
brochure templates?
Like building templates, say someone wants to build a 2-family home. I was talking to someone in a municipality where they have like 5 different options already in their planning inspection, where obviously it's not completely done, but 90% of that building template is already available from the municipality. Is that something that,
I don't wanna do that because I don't wanna get sued. Because then it's the city saying, I'm a designer. My job is not to design, I'm to review to ensure it meets code, that's it. You tell me what you wanna build, I see if it meets code, if it meets code. If I tell you, Councilman, and please understand that it's the 20 years to get to my understanding today, is that if you were to come in and say, I'm gonna build a deck, okay, what are you gonna use? Well, I'm gonna use this. Why use this? If I said that, I just designed it. If it fails, you can sue me. If the city told you to use this. So that's why we can't do that. That would be a very slippery slope, we'll say it that way. I would rather than go get a design offline and work with us, and we tell them the code requirements, and then they get that, and then off they go.
no, I appreciate that response. Because I guess the basis of my original question was, and I think you've touched on it a little bit in terms of inspections, are we mostly like proactive or reactive to that? I mean, I guess when it comes to like specific like in-home violations, we obviously need a complaint first. But how much of like inspections can happen from like the outside?
So for code compliance.
Yeah.
That's the systematics we're doing. So I can't go on a private property, but if I see it from the right of way, then it's mine. And so that's why we moved to this new format of putting inspectors out in the field more. So they're driving around, they drive up, see a bunch of weeds, 6-foot tall weeds that look like corn. Violation. Graffiti violation. You know, if it's trash involved, if it's debris, that's one thing. If it's your bins are knocked over, that's DPW. Hey, DPW, we got some bins over here. And it's great in the communication. I've initiated a conversation with all departments, and what do I call it? Permitting in the city. And every department that touches a permit, we met. And so we're putting together a program, so we get all the needs of every department understood through the permitting process, whatever they need, whatever we need, and create that cross conversation so we're no longer silent.
Appreciate that. And I mean, I would say that's definitely something that I've seen and have heard improve under this administration is departments working a lot more collaboratively. So give you guys credit on that. My next question is a little more specific to the budget under, and sorry if you touched on it already, under electrical and revenues. It's like $300,000 more. What's where do we see that expanding, or $400,000 more?
Under revenue?
43179.
I can take that one if
Thank
you don't mind, yeah. So when we're preparing the budget for inspections and standards, we generally look at the total for the departmental revenue. So for example, the $7 million, the $9 million, 23 cents. The makeup of what makes what permit revenue comes in a given year is next to impossible to try to predict. So we utilize trend and current year actuals to estimate what we will need in the upcoming fiscal year. As you can see, the year-to-date actuals for the electrical permits through April are already at 1.1 million, so we're getting very close to the 1.35 we had in budget, and so we anticipate that that will come in approximately over budget or increase by approximately 400,000. However, again, the most important total to look at is that bottom line number of $2 million. At this point in time, the Department of Inspections and Standards is projected to land over budget in fiscal year 2024 in the mix of all of their different permit revenues, and we anticipate that will continue into fiscal year 2025.
Thank you, Crystal. My last question, if I'm good, Chairwoman.
Yes.
I mean, Director, we've had some proposals along a rental registry. I know internally on the council, we're kind of reworking on that and seeing what else we can come up with. But say we put something out that's just a rental registry without the inspection component. How does that fit into in your current makeup of your department?
The software doesn't. So if you have rental registry, you can use Viewpoint, the permit tracking system. And you just put it in there. Then get registered, it goes in there, or like border licensing or things of that nature. Put it in the software, put the due dates on there, have the software do it. Then you have a quarter of an FTE sending out letters in the mail or emails or things of that nature, plus phone calls.
Thank you.
May I add, if we were to have the inspection component of the, I don't know if you've seen the proposed rental registry or any version of it, but if
I have.
try to have the inspection, how are you appropriately staffed, or would you have to staff?
I can say that because I plan for the worst, hope for the best. The state has their rental registry. I started prepping off of that. I saw something that was submitted as for rental registry. And how would I prepare for that? I put together a spreadsheet and we would add 19 individuals to this department. We would be able to do the inspections over a 4-year time. So not every building will get inspected. It would take us 4 years to inspect every unit on the rental registry. The cost, the upfront cost is $2.9 million. But maybe we do it with software.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's it on my end.
That's it on your end?
Yeah.
May I just ask you, have you done a review of the fees charged?
So what's that?
Fees.
The fees. I have, the fees are set by the state. I have limited control over building permit fees because they're set by the state. We're part of the general fund, we're not an enterprise fund, and due to litigation prior to everyone but maybe the finance team, prior to Kevin, there was litigation done to create those state level fees. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we're locked on those.
They are locked currently at this time until someone litigates that.
Okay, I think my final question, I'd like to know how your pilot program is doing under impervious surface over in Councilor Peterson's ward.
Oh,
We were hoping that it would be a conversation starter. It quickly turned into, now we're gonna issue violations. Before it was a flyer, hey, you may have an issue, please come and talk to us. We wanted to see the temperature by doing it that way. We didn't want to automatically violate, because when you automatically violate, then they can appeal it and take it to the appeals board. What we wanted to do, we wanted the lawyers to get a hold of it, have a little light conversation to see the flexibility of compliance. Some have done a wonderful job coming to the table. and saying, all right, what's your timeline? What can we do? And so we worked that out. Some are more rigid. And so we said, okay, we'll just violate you and we'll take it to legal. So that's the route we're taking with a couple. The other ones have come into understanding that it's gonna happen either by conversation or by legal. So I'm hoping within the next 2 years, I will make a clockwise circle around the city and a pilot program will expand it.
So percentage wise, how many people are complying?
Percentage wise, it's mainly 4 property owners, the largest ones. And 75% of them
Very
are
impressive,
talking to us.
impressive. Yes, Counselor Sanchez.
What is this in compliance to?
Over paving, over parking,
Oh.
to the cars, parking in the front yard. Parking in the front yard, is that peeve of mine, it's in the code luckily, but it is, and so that's low hanging fruit that we can get right off the bat. It's the over paving of the backyards. My understanding has been on the books quite since the 50s. That you can't do this type of paving. And so, properties north. So we have to ensure that we have the conversation. Delicately, I guess you would say, over property rights of owners and insurance compliance. So we're navigating those.
And in terms of our stormwater, man,
Right.
this is a huge deal for us, so I'm most appreciative of this pilot and hoping that it's gonna be a great success citywide.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yes.
Just for my own understanding, there is a way though for like a 1, 2, 3 family home to pave their backyard. Is there like a correct permit process or are those all mostly illegal?
Well, so you get a percentage depending on your zoning. And your required parking. Some don't require parking. So you don't need to pay that. Parking's nice because most people work outside of the city, so they drive. So the balance is there's compliance process and an accommodation for. But typically you can have a driveway that'll accommodate 2 vehicles, kind of garage. That's the typical, what I see here in Providence. Anything outside of that is overpaid.
Okay. You have another question?
Yeah, it's more of a request just because the other departments have done it. And I don't know if it's like a standard that the administration is doing it or if it's up to each department. If we could get names on the org chart.
We'll provide an updated version of things.
Appreciate that.
Of course, no problem.
Thank you for noticing that.
Yeah.
Anything else? I think that's it for our questions. We can't thank you enough for the wonderful job you're doing.
Thank you.
As city director also, we appreciate yours for that.
I think Kevin always said, you know, I might leave and I'm like, oh, you got 5 more years. Anyone who mentions it again, I'm like, well, you got 7 more years. Yeah, it keeps going up. I don't negotiate the other.
I'm glad to hear it. Well, we are happy to support you in your work, because as I said, it's so important to each one of us. I think it's a planning, I don't know, but we really, and you, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I'm going to ask for a motion to continue, items 1 through 4.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Engelbach, seconded by Councilor Samuels, all in favor? Now I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Councilor Engelbach, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye, all opposed. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Today.